Yes, welcome into sportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Thursday, November 17th. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown, all the big college games. Oklahoma, a night game in Morgantown. They'll be sauced up against West Virginia. This is a monster game before the season. Washington State and Colorado, USC, UCLA, and Ohio State, and Michigan State. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We'll start with bad beats. And how about the maxon, Toledo in the fog? Looked like the Bears-Eagles game a long, long time ago. The announcers couldn't tell if a field goal was good. Ball State in the backdoor.
Oh, yeah. Toledo's minus 20. They're up 24, late fourth quarter, marching down the field. Logan Woodside threw an interception in the end zone, the pick in the end zone, and then Ball State marching down the field against the Rockets' backups. They lose by only 18. Bad beat if you had Toledo as Ball State comes through the back door.
Yes, and Toledo against Western Michigan for all the marbles coming up next week. Bad bets, Teddy, the Wizards stink. And a big issue, Beal and Wall don't get along. They are off to a horrible start under Scotty Brooks.
They're 2-8. You know, we were blaming Randy Whitman. It's not all Randy Whitman. And I don't know if you saw the quote the other night, Marcin Cortot, basically saying we have the worst bench in the league and then trying to backtrack from it for the next day. It's not a good chemistry situation in Washington. It hasn't been a good chemistry situation in Washington, but I'm trying to think when it was a good chemistry situation in Washington. You know, not like it was a great chemistry when Gilbert Arenas was there either.
No.
That being said, they bet the Wizards a ton of Wizards money. Of course, no Joel Embiid for Philly. Does Joel Embiid warrant a 3-point line move? Wizards got bet up from -4 to -7. They trailed the whole second half by double digits, made a little rally late, ended up losing straight up. Bad bet for those who are on Washington. And another injury-related point spread move where the money went on what's supposed to be the right side, but ends up being the very wrong side.
Embiid, trust the process. You gotta love it. Bad for the books. Look at this move. Cleveland was a 5-point favorite. No LeBron. Rest. Back-to-back. Indiana goes off a 3-point favorite. That's bad for the books there. Pacers get the win.
Oh, yeah, and don't forget the total either. We're talking about an 8-point line move on the side based on LeBron. The total got bet down from 213 to 208.5, and the Pacers win by 10. The game stays under. The books got clobbered on this one. Worth noting, Indiana noticeably better on defense the last two games. And the Cavs, they were gassed after that barn burner versus the Raptors last night. So was Toronto. We'll talk about them next.
Well, yeah, and here we go. They bet Golden State on the road up to 6. They almost blow a 16-point fourth quarter lead. Another shootout as the Warriors get the win. It wasn't easy, though.
No, it wasn't. And Toronto cut the lead to 4 at the end after trailing most of the game by double digits. But Warriors bet from -3 to -6. And guess what? Golden State wins by exactly 6. So what happens in that situation is the books lose all the folks that bet Golden State 3 and 3.5 and 4 and 4.5 and 5 and 5.5. They push with the late bettors, but that's bad for them because anyone who got a buy, anyone took Toronto plus the 6, they got Golden State 3, Toronto plus 6, and was waiting. They don't even get that money back. It's just a push. Bad result for the house. They get sided on Warriors Raptors.
There's another game that lands right in the middle, the Pistons and the Knicks.
Sure did, and then that was a tough beat. There were 3s and 3.5s available last night and into the morning. All right. By about, 8:30, it was down to 2.5, and then the money was coming on Detroit because Andre Drummond back in the lineup after sitting the last game. But it lands right in the middle with the 3-point win. Ish Smith with the 3-pointer for the Pistons, and then Derrick Rose misses a free throw, only hits 1 out of 2 down the stretch. So the final seconds gave some shenanigans for the bookies as Pistons-Knicks lands right in the middle.
Another middle. No Dwight Howard in Atlanta. The Hawks were laying 8. Bet down to 5 against the Bucks. It lands 7.
Yeah. There was half a dozen games in the NBA last night decided by exactly 6 or 7 points. Those are what we call key numbers in the NBA. Just like we talk about 3s and 7s being key numbers in the NFL. In the NBA, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's about it. But when it comes to 6 or 7, that's where they stop fouling. When you're down 3 possessions in the closing seconds, in comparison to college kids, who sometimes they'll be down 12 points, there's 2 seconds left, they're still fouling, and you're like, got 12.5 in your pocket. You're like, are you kidding me? But they were betting against the Hawks without Dwight Howard last night, and obviously game lands right in the middle. This is just one of a number. We keep talking about bad for the books. These are all bad for the books, and we're not done yet.
Yeah, that's right. No Anthony Davis for the Pelicans, and they bet the Magic up to 7. From 4 to 7, it lands 7.
The Magic win by exactly 7. So again, even the take-back pushes for anyone who took New Orleans late. And that was a 2-point game with just over a minute to go, but the Pelicans did not score again. Their final possession. New Orleans at the end of a tight game is not pretty to watch on offense without Anthony Davis in the lineup. Just awful possessions down the stretch with a chance to steal one against the Magic.
And I believe something we're going to mention for the first time, though, maybe the second time, the Mavs have been an under machine.
Oh, yeah, they sure have. I mean, they played against the Knicks on Monday. That game stayed under by 33 points. Against the Celtics last night, the game stayed under by 26. And that came after, remember, the closing numbers stayed under by 26. That came after a huge total move. It went from 204.5 down to 199. You don't see that in the NBA every day. 5.5 point total moves. You see them in college at this time of year all the time. Now 6-2 to the under in their last 8 ball games is Dallas. They've slowed down the pace. They're not running against anyone, and all they want to do is play half-court sets. So worth noting and worth paying attention to. Books took it on the chin on all those games last night. It was not a great night for the books in NBA action.
Yes, up next, big game breakdown. We'll start with Oklahoma and West Virginia and Washington State and Colorado on sportsBIT. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts and shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Back on sportsBIT, time for big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Ooh, a night game in Morgantown. They'll be ready to go and tanked up. Oklahoma laying 3, 67 the total. West Virginia not getting any love from the committee. They're 14th. They're behind 7 teams that have more losses. So even 11-1 in a Big 12 title might not leave them outside of the party. And as Holgerson said about the night game, this will be one of the best crowds of the season. Quote, it'll be wild. It'll be as good as any atmosphere that exists in college football, end quote. You have to watch this game. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the atmosphere and environment will be top-notch, Teddy.
Sure, but, let's not put the cart before the horse. There's still 3 weeks of college football left, and I know that West Virginia is ranked behind 7 teams that have more losses than they do. And I know that even if they go 11-1, there's a chance that they maybe get left out of the playoff, but that's not what they're thinking. They're thinking win, and we're in. All we got to do is win, baby. Al Davis type of stuff. And as we know, West Virginia hasn't played the toughest of slates yet. That's why they didn't get any love from the committee. But as they step up here against a team like Oklahoma, they get a chance to make jumps, especially if teams ahead of them lose. So I don't think it's hopeless for West Virginia. I don't think, more importantly, I don't think that they think it's hopeless. I mean, this is a classic matchup. Oklahoma arguably has the best skill position talent in the country. They really do. When you look at, quarterback, running back, receivers, they're dynamite. I know Baker Mayfield's not going to play in the NFL at the QB position, but as a collegiate quarterback, he's dynamite. And so we have the best skill position talent against the only team that's played any defense in the Big 12 all year. We've talked a lot about that Mountaineer defense. I mean, Mayfield's number 1 in the nation in pass efficiency. Dede Westbrook, Samaj, Joe Mixon, they could all play in the NFL right now. Of course, Holgerson's quote, the good news is that there's only one ball. Only one of them can get it at a time.
Sooners are the only team West Virginia's not been able to beat since joining the Big 12. 0-4 straight up, 2-2 ATS, 44-24 last year, 45-33 in 2014, 16-7 in 2013. Only one score game was 2012, where it was wild, 50-49 in Morgantown. What do you think of this story? As Stoops ripped the kid out the door. Charles Walker was Oklahoma's defensive tackle. Earlier in the week, he says, that's it, I'm out of here. I'm getting ready for the NFL. And he quits the team. Kuiper's got him as the 6th rated defensive tackle. Stoops like, how do you quit on your teammates here?
It's a bizarre story, but it also speaks like what's going on in that Oklahoma locker room. We know how good they are. We know how many games in a row that they've won. But you just wonder about it. I mean, look, the Sooners defense hasn't been good at any point this season. When they get stops, it tends to be the other team making mistakes as much as it is anybody on Oklahoma making a play. The pass rush is hit or miss. The secondary's been spotty. When you lose a defensive tackle who is going to the NFL off a bad defense, that's a problem for me. It really is. And again, it's the type of loss that isn't going to get factored into the point spread one iota. What are the markets missing? We talked about this on Monday's show. That's the number one priority. You're thinking, what are the markets not seeing? What are they not valuing correctly? In the case, in this instance at least, it may be that Oklahoma defense without a key run stuff.
Yes, I know scouts and NFL personnel won't like that either. You walk away with a couple games left. What's that all about? Game number 2.
Don't like it at all.
Yeah, game number 2. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. This is a fun game to handicap and a great game to talk about. Washington State in Boulder to take on Colorado. Buffalo's 4.5, 60 the total. Colorado 9-1 ATS this year. The Cougars are 9-1 ATS the last 10. As a dog, we had them week 2 at Boise and they got the money. Colorado 2 steps away. Beat Wazoo Saturday in Utah, and they go into the Pac-12 title game. Likely the coach of the year, Mike McIntyre, quote, "This is a special time in Colorado football. Our young men have taken us from good to really good, and we can move to great next weekend," end quote. And now, the pressure, though, here's the pressure. A team wasn't expected to do anything. They're this close, Teddy.
And that's what concerns me. Here's what defense coordinator Jim Leavitt said about the pressure building on Colorado. Quote, "I think this team doesn't even think about it. They're just playing. I don't know if they know better because they've never been there. I don't know if it's hit them." And that may be the case, especially this week, where you have a team that's playing with momentum. They still have business ahead of them. It's not like this is one game, hey, win this game, and all of a sudden you get a big prize. They got Washington State and Utah before they get to the Pac-12 title game. So I don't know if we see that type of thing this scenario. And the question is, can Colorado really get to great? With McIntyre's quote, "We've gone from good to really good, and we can move to great." I don't know if that's the case with this team. They're a very good team, but this has not been a banner year for the Pac-12. And Colorado, tight win over a way down Stanford, tight win over a way down Oregon, tight win over a UCLA team without Josh Rosen. The best teams, or most of the best teams in the Pac-12, have had issues this season, and the Buffs have been able to take advantage. That doesn't mean they're a great football team.
And Lou Fowle's not exactly lighting it up either at quarterback. Less than 500 yards and a 4-3 ratio the last 3 games, touchdown interception ratio. The defense and the running game have been carrying them. Now to the Pirate in Washington State. They have won 8 in a row for the first time since 1930. They are 7-0 in conference for the first time ever. So they're ready to go and they're fired up. They lost a tough, good wide receiver with a torn ACL, Craycraft. 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, the mind game of the week. Now, listen, this means nothing because next Friday, and it's a short week, the day after Thanksgiving, they have the Apple Cup against Washington, which will decide who goes to the Pac-12 title game. So who knows, and of all these coaches, who knows what the hell Leach is going to do?
Well, we have a thought process of what Leach might do here. We know what Colorado's going to do, correct? Colorado playing in the Pac-12 South, they got to win out, or their goals will not be in front of them anymore. For Washington, this is a complete throwaway game. They're in the Pac-12 North. They will play for Washington State, I should say. They will play Washington next week, short week, mind you, on the Friday in the Apple Cup to go. The winner of that game will go to the Pac-12 title game. And they could quite possibly, quite realistically, meet Colorado again in that ball game. So I got to think Leach does not go all out to win this game, especially when you talk about the top wide receiver. Craycraft, he's got 218 career catches. That's the second best in school history. I wonder if Washington State spent part of this week practicing for Washington, not Colorado. And this is, it may be a tough gauge here. What's Leach going to do? My spidey sense says I'm not expecting Washington State's A game. Again, this isn't a team that is used to going on 8-game winning streaks late in the season.
Yes, well done there. We'll get to this game coming up with play of the day. Up next, Ohio State, Michigan State, and USC against UCLA on sportsBIT. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, wrapping it up on sportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood there. What's with the sweater? Where's the nice shirt?
It's freezing in Vegas, man. All of a sudden, we were in fall. We were in fall. All of a sudden, between last night and today, it became winter. So yeah, I figured I'd Mr. Rogers it up every once in a while. You know,
You're from Michigan
instead of wearing a jacket.
You're from Michigan. You think it's cold? Come on. All right, here we go.
By the second year I lived in Las Vegas, and let me preface this by saying I love the fact on this show we never talk about bullshit. I don't talk about my kid. I don't talk about my life. We don't talk about the weather. We talk about sports. But I will say this much: when you move to Vegas, by about the second year you're here, you can't go back. If you're from up north, it's just too cold. You're not used to it anymore. You know, I went back I think the third year, and I froze my ass, Pauly. I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, your blood thins.
I hear you. All right, 2 games left. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Ohio State at Michigan State. Buckeyes 22, 53.5 the total. The position, they're okay. Just went out, probably make the playoffs, although who knows with these bozos on the committee. They could get TCU'd like 2 years ago. But they play number 3 next week with Michigan at home, so they should be fine. Almost an identical situation this week a year ago. They just needed to win. They were laying 16.5 at home against Sparty. Bad weather, backup quarterback. Whoops, they fell asleep. Elliott ripped the coaching staff, and they got beat at home.
Yeah, they sure did. And the key to that game, and the way Michigan State was able to pull off that upset, they didn't allow the Buckeyes, their athletes, to get in the open field at all. And that's the key again this year. When Ohio State gets their athleticism, gets their athletes into space, doesn't matter who they're playing. You know, Sparty's not stopping them. Nobody's stopping them. J.T. Barrett. He's only thrown 4 picks all year. 23-4 touchdown interception ratio. Very impressive. More than 2,200 passing yards and more than 600 rushing yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. You got Mike Weber, you got Curtis Samuel. It's big play weapons for the Buckeyes out of the backfield. And, these are elite level athletes. That's something that Michigan State just doesn't have. And defensively, Michigan State hasn't been able to stop guys like this all year. And they're also missing one of their key cogs, or could be missing one of their key cogs this weekend on the defensive side.
Yes, Malik McDowell's health. Check that. Per coach Mark D'Antonio, defensive tackle is either going to start or miss the game altogether. They removed him from the depth chart because of an ankle injury. So whether or not the lineman is able to play could have a huge impact. And listen, it's been a disappointing season. It's been a debacle for Michigan State. They can make up for it with just one win here and salvage the season at least if they can upset Ohio State for the second year in a row. And just like last year, Teddy, weather could be a factor again.
Well, yeah, no question. Mark D'Antonio, it's been a disaster for Michigan State this year. They salvaged their season with an upset here. It's a very dangerous mindset for a team with pride, but don't underestimate the potential loss of McDowell, though. We're talking about a preseason All-American, a consensus first-round NFL draft choice. Ohio State's running game is impressive as hell. When you take out a guy like McDowell from the middle of that Michigan State defensive front, that's not a good matchup for the Spartans. And, of course, as you mentioned, weather a factor last year, we're talking about the early forecast. Cold rain, temperatures in the upper 30s, low 40s, wind gusts that could be in the 20s. Check those forecasts this week. As I said a few moments ago, it turned to winter in Vegas overnight last night. That front's moving east. It's expected to affect games in Indiana, in Michigan, and throughout the upper Midwest on Saturday. You can make good money in college football just following weather forecasts at this time of the year. You know what to do. You bet those totals under earlier in the week, and then figure out if you want to hold it or bet it back the other way later in the week. But pay attention to those forecasts. Not always easy to cover as 3 touchdown favorites, even in revenge, when the weather is downright nasty.
Very good there. One more, another rivalry game. USC, UCLA. Trojans 13, 52.5 the total. Jim Mora and the Bruins in the same situation. Disappointing season. All the reason to go out and beat their rival. Also a chance for Faithful, the senior quarterback, to go out in style. He's been behind his whole career. He sat behind talented players. Mora has given out 2 game balls in 5 seasons. One went to Faithful last week, Teddy.
Yeah, his quote. He played behind Brett Hundley, of course, an NFL quarterback, and then Josh got the job, and he's hung in there, meaning he didn't transfer. He's everything that you want in a quarterback in terms of studying the game and it just being serious to him. It's just great. So, we're talking about a senior QB who played very well last week against Oregon State and has something to give to his teammates, even with their NFL-bound QB in Rosen already hurt. And I love the quote from Mora, talking about his team. There's no quit in them. We're not doing well enough, but it's not for lack of effort on the part of our players. Although he did give a little bit of caution for those who are looking to bet UCLA on the money line. Quote, we have to play a darn near perfect game on Saturday night. We'll work towards that. That was early in the week coming out of practice.
Well, the other story is the other quarterback, Darnold. I give Clay Helton full marks. I mean, this was a dumpster fire early with USC. Now they're on this winning streak. They upset Washington, and the big reason why is the quarterback change from Brown to Darnold. The kid's been awesome.
Yeah, he sure has. And again, Brown was the number one ranked QB coming out of high school in the country. Darnold wasn't. I think he was a top 20 QB coming out of high school. Not like he's chopped liver. But he's been dynamite. And maybe one of the best moments of the season. Not for us. We had a Washington ticket. But when you watch this kid play on the road, leading the and after beating Washington, and here's a picture. He's leading the Trojan band after beating the Huskies. You know, he's got the it factor. He is a leader. His teammates respond to him. And, of course, there aren't a whole lot of teams that have played better football than USC over the course of the last month. Big edge for USC at the quarterback position and big edge for USC at the running back position. The Trojans can run the football. The Bruins can't. UCLA, 872 yards at 2.9 yards per carry for the season. USC, more than twice as many rushing yards, more than 2,000, and they've done it at 5.4 yards per click.
All right, money time, play of the day. Back to Washington State, Colorado. What are we doing?
Let's go to the Buffaloes. Game number 374, the play of the day. Colorado minus 4.5. This is a Phillip Lindsay game. Phillip Lindsay, 937 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. He also got 37 catches and 311 yards out of the backfield catching passes. I expect him to go over 1,000 yards on the ground in this game and bull his way against that Washington State defense. Take the Buffs over Wazoo. Colorado minus 4.5 is our play of the day.
And we buried the lead yesterday with the play of the day. You hinted at it with the great record. I tweeted it yesterday, and the University of Houston football retweeted me. Since 2012, Tom Herman's been an underdog 10 times as the Ohio State offensive coordinator or the Houston head coach. He's won every single game. They're getting 2 touchdowns tonight.
Yeah, he's won every game straight up.
Yes.
As an underdog.
Yes.
And if you want to have fun, go back and take a look at Tom Herman in his last year as Iowa State's offense coordinator, before he went to Ohio State to be Urban Meyer's offense coordinator. I'll give you a hint. He covered some spreads as a dog in that role, too.
Wow.
A lot of spreads in a row.
That is amazing. Unbelievable. Go get him, Mr. Herman, coming up later tonight. We'll recap that. The NFL game. Can Troy win again? All the NBA action. And we're back Friday to run down the NFL weekend preview, all the marquee games in the National Football League. We'll talk to you then. Have a good one. SportsBIT, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Thanks for watching.